Chapter 19, Part 2 of Married Thrice to Salted Fish. Not long after, Huan Tong and Hua Lu left the Blue Wind Pavilion one after the other. One went to the long-waiting Changyang, and the other went to Sleeping Moon Pavilion where Pan Yin Yang was. Huan Tong found Changyang and told him that the young master had read his letter. There were so many people in the mansion during the daytime that it was inconvenient to meet with him. He was going to have to be inconvenienced to wait a couple of hours in the mansion, and come nightfall, the two of them would meet. Changyang had no objection. Huan Tong took him to an empty room in a side courtyard of the mansion. He said, "Chang Gongxi, please wait here. When the time is right, the young master will come without prompting." This wait lasted from dusk until dark. During this period, Huan Tong even served him a meal. It wasn't long past the summer solstice. The days were getting hotter day by day. Come nightfall, the lingering summer heat gradually dissipates, even becoming slightly cool sometimes. At this moment, if one had a beautiful woman by his side to take a stroll through the garden to appreciate the lotus under the moonlight and listen to the sound of cries of the frogs, then it would certainly be worthy of this fine moment and beautiful scene. It was a pity that the two beautiful women of the Blue Wind Pavilion were doomed to be left without this leisurely enjoyment tonight. Lin Chingyu pushed Lu Wancheng out of the Blue Wind Pavilion, then handed the wheelchair to Hua Lu. "I'm going." Lu Wancheng nodded. "Go on." Lu Wancheng watched as Lin Chingyu left. Looking at his cold and distant back, he felt a little uncomfortable. He attributed this discomfort to a man's desire to monopolize rearing its ugly head. It should be fine as long as he exercises a bit of control. It was like when he was little, when someone would borrow and walk away with his most favorite beautiful toy. He would be concerned about it the entire time, for fear that the toy would be soiled by others. Wait, this brainless little shitty wouldn't be so impulsive to enact a passionate confession and then stage a scene where he traps Lin Chingyu against a corner, puts his arms around the other's waist, and forces a kiss, right? Gosh, Luan Cheng, your imagination is like on another level. Yeah, but definitely super possible with that shitty being so freaking eager and offering help when nobody asked for any help. Fuck. Lu Wancheng's thoughts were running wild. He then heard Hua Lu ask him, "Young master, where are we going now?" Matters were urgent. Lu Wancheng calmed his mind and said, "The back garden." Lin Chingyu took advantage of the moonlight and passed through the back garden to the room where Changyang was waiting. With 3 taps on the door opened from the inside. Changyang couldn't hide his excitement. "Shishong," Lin Chingyu said, voice low, "if you have got something to say, let's talk about it inside." Inside, the only source of illumination was an oil lamp used by the servants. It could only illuminate a small area around them. Changyang stared fixedly at the person before him. Under the faint light, the flame flickered in the Shishong's eyes. Staring at it for a long time, his breathing grew scalding. "Ugh, stop." Before he could have his fill of looking, Lin Chingyu went straight to the point. "Talk." Changyang looked at his slightly parted red lips. After being momentarily dazed, he said all in one go, "Shishong, come with me." Sure enough, Lin Chingyu sighed lightly and asked calmly, "And where would you be taking me?" "Anywhere. Away from the Hao mansion, away from the capital." Changyang's eyes flashed with longing. We can go back to the master. We will go live in the mountains and forests in the seclusion with him, okay? Lin Qingyu pressed the space between his brows and said, my marriage with Lu Wancheng was bestowed by the emperor. Once I'm gone, what will happen to the Lin residents? I have considered this matter too, Chang Yang said. Shishang, do you remember that the master has been trying to create a medicine that can fake death? Lin Qingyu's interest was finally piqued. When he had travelled with his master, they had a chance encounter with a young woman who had hung herself on a branch. After saving the woman, the young woman wept as she told them of her experience. She had been sold as a concubine to the local big shot by her gambler of a father. Every day she was beaten and insulted. She was even threatened that she should run away. He would take away the lives of her family as recompense. The young woman was left with no choice but to seek death. From then on, the master had the idea to create some sort of medicine that could fake death. Lin Qingyu asked, Master succeeded? Chang Yang nodded again and again. Yes, Master named it the Wansheng pill. He also passed the prescription to me. Unfortunately, my skills are not good, and even with a prescription, I can't make it. But I know Shishang surely can. So, you want me to fake my death to escape? Yes, as long as the world thinks that Shishang is dead, they definitely won't trouble the Lin residents. It's a good idea, Lin Qingyu said lightly. But what's the point of being a dead person? Chang Yang said without hesitation. As long Shishang regains his freedom, he can go do whatever he wants. Isn't that enough? What I want to do? Ha! Lin Qingyu smiled as if mocking Chang Yang's naivety. Didn't you say that you understand me? How can you not even know what I really want? I don't want to be an ordinary doctor. I want to be the best. I have to read all the books in the world and have an inexhaustible supply of rare medicinal materials. And these only the Imperial Medical Department can give me. I don't shun prosperity, wealth, and power. I also like to see people kneeling before me, trembling in fear. Do you understand? Ooh, a strong MC. That's what it is. All the other people are I'm so honorable, freedom. I want just be doing what I want to do for no money at all. But people don't understand. It's the wealth and power that you need. And cherry on the top. Lynching you wants people kneeling before him, trembling in fear. See, that's the femme fatale. Chang Yang looked blankly at Ling Qingyu as though he were looking at a stranger. You don't know anything, and yet you keep harping on about taking me away. It's ridiculous. Lin Qingyu stood up. I will have Huan Tong escort you out of the mansion. Things were much too far from Chang Yang's expectations. In his eyes, his Shishang was a noble and benevolent gentleman who harbored virtue and merit. Associating him with wealth and power was simply too outrageous, too unfitting. For a while, he truly couldn't accept it. However, seeing that his Shishang was about to push the door to leave, he couldn't help blurting out his thoughts. Then, what Shishang wants, can young Master Hao give it to you? Lin Qingyu stopped in his tracks. Young Master Hao is not long of this world. Now he's simply muddling alone, eating and waiting to die. How is he any different from a spoiled fop thumping his nose at the world? How can someone with such shameful behavior? Lin Qingyu interrupted him, voice cold. Then, what do you want him to do? Chang Yang was stunned. Shishang! Even you know that Lu Wancheng is terminally ill. He's only got a single breath in him. You see him talking and laughing with you, taking nothing seriously. But you know how many medicines he takes every day? How many acupuncture treatments? He takes 2 steps and he's out of breath. A little cold can put him into a coma, one he might not wake up from. When he gets a cough, he can't sleep well all night, but because he's worried he might wake me up, he will force himself to endure it. He is like this already. What do you want him to do? Go and take the imperial examinations or join the army and serve the country? He only has half a year left. Why can't he spend what little time he has being a spoiled fop who doesn't have to worry about anything? Lin Yu really spoke so much to others. How could he not know that Lu Wancheng was mischievous, lazy, and weird? He couldn't understand how Lu Wancheng couldn't take anything seriously, how he couldn't care about anything. He even mocked Lu Wancheng to his face many times before, but this didn't mean that others could look down on Lu Wancheng. Yes, my husband, only I'm gonna be the people who condemn him. Okay, don't look down on my husband. After a long silence, Chang Yang asked in a low voice, Shishang, do you like him? Lin Qingyu didn't hesitate. I'm not gay, and neither is he. My relationship with him, if I have to say, Lin Qingyu smiled softly. We are probably bosom friends, forcibly tied by a predestined marriage. Not gay, Shang Yang smiled wryly. I see. It's me who has bothered Shishang. Lin Qingyu wanted to say that he wasn't enough to be a bother to him, but seeing Chang Yang's desolate expression, he decided to hold the words back. Chang Yang took a deep breath and took out a prescription from the medicine box. He forced out a smile. This is the formula for the Wansheng pill. Please accept it, Shishang. I'm leaving. Lin Qingyu nodded lightly. Huatong, see the guest out. Chang Yang walked out of the room, looking up at the bright moon on the horizon. He suddenly sighed. He traveled all the way to the capital for his Shishang, but now the person before him was no longer the one in his heart. Maybe he should leave. No, Shishang has never been like what he had imagined. It was his own wishful thinking forcing his ideas onto his Shishang. Shishang was right. Him being like this was ridiculous. Chang Yang was feeling dejected when he heard Huan Tong say, Don't be sad, Chang Gongzi. With how my family's young master is, he will definitely not let himself be trapped in this wretched Nananhao mansion. Chang Yang laughed at himself. It was just me thinking myself infallible. Huan Tong patted Chang Yang on the shoulder and said, Let's go, Chang Gongzi, or it will be too late. Chang Yang asked, Too late for what? Huan Tong smiled and said, Young Master Hao knew that Chang Gongzi might be sad tonight, so he's specially inviting you to watch a good show. The night grew darker, a dark cloud silently obscuring the moonlight, and the lights in the mansion were extinguished. In the wooded back garden, if it weren't for the lit lanterns, it would be difficult to see even the path under one's feet. Lu Shaosong took Xiao Momo and hid behind a tree, staring at 2 figures by the pool. He asked, Are you sure it's them? Xiao Momo said, I can't be mistaken. Dr. Chang was wearing clothes of this color today and Xiao Zhen wore white clothes. Lu Shaosong gritted his teeth and said, Go, don't let them get away. Xiao Momo immediately jumped out from behind the tree. She can't do much of anything, but her voice was loud. Her howl could be heard by half the mansion. Oh, if it isn't Xiao Zhen. It's already so late, but Xiao Zhen isn't attending to the young master by his sick bed Instead, he's sneaking admiring the moon with someone. This howl came from out of the blue, and the man in white was startled. He was unsteady on his feet and almost fell into the water. Fortunately, the blue clothed man beside him immediately caught him and steadied him on his feet. The man in blue shouted sharply, "Who said such nonsense?" Shamamo's knees instantly went weak when she heard this voice. How could it be Master How's voice? Shamamo staggered and wanted to run back, but she was suddenly stopped by Hualu coming out from nowhere. Hualu said loudly, "Why is Shamamo in such a rush?" She turned to look behind the tree. Eh, third young master is also here. Eldest young master is admiring the moon with the master. Didn't you see? Lu Shaosong was forced to abort his escape and he cursed secretly in his heart. Hualu's voice was not as penetrating as Xiaomomo's, but it was enough for Nanan Hao to hear. Today, he was resting in Sleeping Moon Pavilion as per usual. Pan Shi attending upon him to change into normal clothes when, seeing the bright moonlight outside, Pan Shi said that the lotus flowers in the pond were blooming profusely and asked him if he wanted to take a walk by the pond to enjoy the moon. Nanan Hao was also a scholar and couldn't bear to betray the beauty of the moonlight, and so he took Pan Shi to the back garden where he happened to meet his eldest son, who was also here to enjoy the moon. Father and son got a rare opportunity to chat, and Pan Shi, under the guise of preparing their food, thoughtfully left this time for father and son. Lu Wancheng took the initiative to mention the Empress. The Empress has been concerned about her sister's only child, and from time to time she would send the eunuch to the mansion to pass on her greetings, often gifting him with supplements. Nanan Hao asked him to wait for his body to get better, after which time he could go personally to palace to thank her. The two were having a good conversation when that shout took them by surprise. It scared Lu Wancheng so much that he almost fell into the water. Nanan Hao knew that his eldest son was frail and weak. Seeing how Lu Wancheng's face paled, his lips turned bloodless. He was naturally furious. "Who's talking? Come here." Lu Shaosong and Sha Mamo were invited by Hua Lu to appear before Nanan Hao. Nanan Hao said coldly, "And what is this master servant pair doing making such a fuss in the back garden in the middle of the night?" Lu Shaosong put on a bold face and said, "Your son is here to enjoy the moon as well." Lu Wancheng smiled feebly. "Third brother does not bring the singers and actresses he raises in the courtyard to admire the moon. Instead, he brings Sha Momo. What a refined and elegant attitude of mind." Lu Shaosong knew he was in the wrong, so he could only restrain his emotions. Nanan Hao looked at Sha Momo. "What were you yelling just now?" Madame Xiao hurriedly said. To answer Master Hao, the servant accompanied the third young master to admire the moon. Seeing two people by the pond from a distance, I thought it was Shao Jun and Dr. Chang. You must not blame the servant. Everyone in the mansion knows that Shao Jun and Dr. Chang are fellow disciples and share a close relationship, often meeting with each other. This is how the servant misunderstood. Nanan Hao said, voice low, "Is there such a thing?" "Father, Dr. Chang was coming in to the Blue Wind Pavilion not to see Ching Yu, but to see me," Lu Wancheng said lightly. "Dr. Chang and I immediately hit it off upon first meeting and shared delightful chats. I asked him to frequent the Blue Wind Pavilion to accompany me and relieve the boredom with conversation. Hua Lu echoed his words. This is true. Whenever Dr. Chang came to the Blue Wind Pavilion, it was to talk with the young master. There were even times when the Shaojun wasn't there. Nanan Hao's expression relaxed and he asked, Who is this Dr. Chang? Lu Wancheng calmly said, He is the doctor who's treating third brother's kidney weakness. Kidney? Nanan Hao pointed his finger to Lu Shaosang's nose and said, Absolutely livid. Explain yourself. He'd only known that Lu Shaosang was sick, but he hadn't known what sickness it was. Lu Shaosang was someone with a previous record. As soon as the words kidney weakness came out, anyone would suspect the same thing. Liu Shaosang's face immediately flushed and he couldn't have a fit of anger in front of Nanan Hao. Father has misunderstood. I just caught a cold. Naturally, Nanan Hao didn't believe him. However, he couldn't very well interrogate him in front of the servants regarding such a matter that violated public decency. Follow me to the study. After that, with a flick of his sleeves, he strode furiously away. Father! Before coming here, Liu Niantao had repeatedly told Liu Shaosong that no matter what the other party said, all he had to do was squeeze Lin Qingyu and Chang Yang's relationship, even if it was fake. He only had to create suspicion. But he never expected that Lu Wancheng would point the finger at him instead. He wasn't going to be able to escape this heavy reprimand, but he wasn't going to let Lu Wancheng feel smug about it either. Liu Chaosong staggered to stand before Lu Wancheng, a grimace appearing on his face. With sister-in-law's good looks, there aren't just one or two people who admire him. Dage could bear it this time, but can you bear it next time? No matter how magnanimous Dage may be, I don't think even you can bear that many people casting greedy eyes at him in the dark. Third brother too knows that he is mine. Since he is mine, then I ask you. Lu Wancheng smiled and his gaze passed over everyone, one by one, seeming to but also seemingly not to. He looked at Chang Yang's direction. Don't move, don't touch, don't think.